You know, they're selling y'all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
Eles deu nothing. Eles deu nothing. Shut your fucking mouth. Eles deu nothing. Eles deu fucking nothing. Not one of yous will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there. I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? It's another daily edition of the show live on YouTube in podcast form, obviously in iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc. It's Matt, the hipster hunter. Obviously going to be discussing a plethora of topics. It is the Friday sort of wrap-up show of the week. We will be live tomorrow. I know I promised that last week and we weren't live. There were just some personal issues or situations I was dealing with. But tomorrow, definitely going to do at least an immediate reaction. I've been debating what to do for the live fight chat. I am going to put a poll up on our Patreon, patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. You do not have to be a Patreon supporter to access this poll and to vote. So when I do put it up, go over there and definitely leave your vote, whether you want me to do a live fight chat for obviously the World Boxing Super Series tomorrow or the UFC event. Whichever one in your guys' mind should be a live fight chat worthy. Anyways, digressing. Obviously, today's topics, Bob Arum talking about Triple G on pay-per-view against Gilberto Ramirez. Of course, obviously, the Gervonta Davis, Abner Mares news with them pretty much all but set in stone to be facing each other first quarter next year, either on Showtime or Fox. Obviously, you're going to delve into that one as well. Plus, Henry Cejudo coming out for more of our MMA news and topics of the day, coming out and basically reaffirming what we all know. Dana White has told him, hey, 125 isn't around that much longer. We want you to go up and fight TJ Dillashaw for a champs, super fight. Dana White.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
He's definitely on something. But anyways, obviously we're going to get to all those topics, all of those sort of debates. Call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. I definitely want some opinions about some of this stuff because, speaking of pay-per-views and the dissolving of an entire division in the UFC, these are massive sort of trends we are seeing in combat sports, both in MMA and in the boxing side of it, that are cause of concern, like as a whole. Like as a consumer, as a fan, as media, we should all be a little bit concerned here going forward about sort of the direction some of our established sort of entities, corporations in the sport are still sort of running their sort of business entities and how they're running it and how they see their bottom line in accordance with the consumers. Obviously going to delve into all that. Cameron Gillen, obviously our co-host, was supposed to be on today. I don't know where he's at. Hopefully he's a little bit late and he can come on later. But if not, obviously we're just going to roll through with the topics and your calls comments, questions, all that stuff in the live chat as well. Elias, Main Event Mark, Castle Hill Gil. Shout out to Gil, man. The Don of New York right there, man. Pay your respects and homage. Wayne, Santiago. Shout out to Santiago, man. The homie. And Fern, of course. I was going to give him air horns, but I feel like I played air horns too much. Sorry, Fern. And Smasher, all of you guys in the chat. Hope everyone's having a great day. Johnny, also in the chat. Go check out his YouTube channel, SoundCloud, all that stuff. He's been dropping a lot of music lately. Go support everyone within the family and the MCR community. Let's get right to it because I can sit here and talk about a lot of things and rant and rave. You guys know that. But obviously, we have so much. I have at least a lot to do outside of the show today. In case anyone was out, lives under a rock or just isn't, hip to the shit, a lot of albums drop musically. I know Johnny knows what I'm talking about, man. We have so many albums to listen to tonight, so I definitely going to drop some sort of hipsters music reviews for my Patreon subscribers, and it will probably be free as well. So, if you're not a Patreon subscriber, I'll be doing a bunch of music reviews tonight as well. Digressing from all that, of course, let's get to the news of the day. Bob Arum going to boxing scene and telling them that he would love for Gennady Golovkin to be on ESPN, and he could fight Gilberto Ramirez on pay-per-view, or at least the winner of Gilberto Ramirez, Jesse Hart, on pay-per-view. And let me read the quote, and shout out to Bobby, man. Quote to Bobby. Saying, speaking of, obviously, Triple G, he could do what Canelo's doing. He could go up to super middleweight and fight the winner of Gilberto Ramirez, Jesse Hart. Him against Ramirez would be a big pay-per-view fight. Really, Bobby? Will it? That would be a great fight. There's not really much to say about this, because I don't think it happens. I don't think Triple G heads to ESPN. If I'm in his management team or if I'm his promoter, Tom Lawfer, who I know quite well, I've been around Tom quite a bit outside of, the job in a way. I've been at cocktail parties with them and et cetera. And they're smart people. Like, they are legitimately very smart, intelligent people. So, other than maybe a gigantic contract from ESPN, the more money you're going to get is in the zone. You want to get your belts back? They're at the zone. They're not at ESPN. It just makes little sense, really, to go to ESPN and on top of that, fight Gilberto Ramirez on pay-per-view. So I just don't think it's likely. Bobby, we love you. You're old degenerate bastard, but it's not happening, man. I'm sorry, but Gilberto's not getting that shot. And let's take it a little bit more macro in terms of pay-per-view, and this is what I want to talk about. We are obviously seeing a huge rise in television rights deals for the sport, a huge rise in streaming apps for the sport, all things that are sort of lowering the paywall for the sport. Maybe not obviously eliminating it, because obviously DAZN costs money, ESPN costs money, Showtime costs money, ESPN Plus costs money. Those all cost relatively some cash, obviously. However, it's significantly different than a $60 to $80 a pop for a single event on a Saturday night. Drastically different, right? We have to at least all agree on that part. That obviously DAZN, ESPN Plus, ESPN as a whole, Showtime, these are all paywalls in a sense to the sport, but they're significantly less than pay-per-views. However, with this rapid rise in television rights deals, this rapid rise in streaming apps that are effectively lowering the cost for consumers, at the same time, these really entrenched entities are now clinging on to that old model of pay-per-view. We see Showtime having pay-per-view in December, January, and February, when they've had 0 pay-per-views this last year. I believe they only had 1 the year before, which was obviously the Mayweather fight. This is a sign of things that are not good for the consumers, at least. Maybe it's good for the bottom line, for Showtime, etc. But for us, the consumer, obviously it's not good for our bottom line. And on top of that, obviously, if you look across the pond in the UK, and again, that's where Cameron was on. Hopefully, Rob or Mitty or one of maybe our UK listeners, Nija, Ahmed, one of you guys can call in. and give your sort of take on it from the UK perspective. But obviously, there's been a rapid rise in the pay-per-view model and the market overall in the UK. And just as a global sense, it's this weird dichotomy we have in terms of a macroeconomic sense for the sport, because obviously we're having an active attempt, or seemingly an active attempt, to work television rights deals in terms of the financing behind it to hemorrhage any sort of loss in revenue from the pay-per-view model that was, for a very short window, seemingly dying. And now within, again, the span of a week or two, it's been relatively nothing. It's been relatively increased, I should say. And the idea that we are moving away from pay-per-view is no longer there, I feel like. The idea that all of a sudden, man, Canelo, the really last, in his prime pay-per-view star in the U.S. market, he went to a streaming app. And then, a few days later, Showtime announces 2 other pay-per-view events in back-to-back months. And again, you can make arguments for those individual pay-per-views, just like you can make individual arguments for the events in the UK that are pay-per-view. You can make arguments, absolutely. But as a rising trend in the sport, it's just odd. And I feel like I hopefully I'm not the only one noticing it. Hopefully others out there that listen to the show, or just out there as a whole, especially in the media, start sort of noticing this sort of hypocrisy, in a sense, with these promoters, with these networks, and how, the idea was to use television rights money to get away from pay-per-view, and now they are sort of doubling down on pay-per-view with fighters that don't make sense in some way. It's definitely going to be interesting going forward, of course, as to, what really is the paradigm in the next, 5 to 10 years, or the next 50 years. The immediate see what it will be like, and what will the long-term effects be. And Bob Arum having no issue doing pay-per-views, obviously, is another sign of that. Elias saying, I would support Wilder pay-per-view. And look, like I said, you can make individual cases for these pay-per-views, just like Pacquiao Broner, for example. You can easily make a case as to why that should be pay-per-view. Even in a very, very loose argument you can make with Spence Garcia, White Chisora. You can make these arguments for these pay-per-views that arguably shouldn't be pay-per-view, but still are. However, as a whole, the entire quantity of pay-per-views we see is the issue. Not maybe these individual ones. It's the quantity. It's the fact that all of a sudden, with now tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in television rights deals just flooding the market, we're reverting back to the pay-per-view model, when the last few years has been an active attempt to push away from that. Just odd. It definitely is peculiar in a lot of ways, and definitely something to sort of pay attention to going forward. Boxing and Blunt saying, I don't mind pay-per-view in the UK for big events, but 2 Brits fighting for a world title will get overshadowed by an overrated knob of a heavyweight and Trezor. That's funny. I assume you're probably the 2 Brits fighting for a world title. I assume you're talking about maybe like a Frampton Warrington. I'll be assuming that. Boxing and Blunts. And of course we can support individual pay-per-views, and we don't mind them at times, and especially in the UK, it's obviously significantly cheaper. At the least, it is a third of the price of US pay-per-views. However, again, it's not these individual ones. It's not, Tony Bellew, Alexander Usyk being pay-per-view. That's not the issue. It's the amount of pay-per-view events is the issue, especially coupling with the rhetoric that we've seen from DAZN, Showtime, ESPN, everyone involved basically in the sport right now, is that we're moving away from pay-per-view. And yet we've seen, within the span of weeks, it has seemed, a very vocal return to that model. Just odd. I think we cannot, overlook this, again, hypocrisy, this difference of rhetoric and action that we are seeing here. with the established entities of the sport. Moving on from this topic, though, to our next topic of the day, Gervonta Davis finally, in a sense, sort of getting a slight confirmation that he's fighting Abner Mares. The fight would be in early 2019, either on Showtime or Fox, according to Mike Coppinger. And again, always shout out to Mike Coppinger, because the 180 that, his reputation has had in the last 12 months is truly impressive. And it's, slightly inspiring too. So always salute to Mike Coppinger. He's definitely improving as a journalist, and definitely make himself be one of the standouts as well. But digressing to this fight, obviously my sort of opinions about this fight have not changed. Like, I still think this is a relatively mismatch for Abner Mares. I don't think he really has much of a chance here. In this fight, I think he's too small, too old. Maybe the inactivity of Gervonta Davis is a factor, but I mean, let's be honest here. Does anyone really pick Abner Mares to win this fight? If you do, power to you. Please call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue, or email me mixcombatradio@gmail.com to get an international permanent free call-in link. And all the information is below, either on the screen or in the description below. Anyways, Gervonta Davis should easily win this fight. He should probably get a finish at some point, to be quite honest. Probably thinking within 7 rounds. The one good thing I will say, though, is that obviously this isn't on pay-per-view. And, sort of connected to the story before, or at least the topic before, I'm actually conflicted as to whether I'm glad this is not on one of those pay-per-view cards or not. Because obviously, with what we've seen with the Wilder Fury undercard, it's not the greatest. It's some names and some obvious mismatches and tune-ups. It would have been nice to have relative names, even in a mismatch, like Gervonta Davis, Abner Mares, to sort of support a Spence Garcia undercard, Pacquiao Broner, for example. It would have added some sort of depth to the card and at least a name value. With the Charlos being on Fox in December, they're obviously not going to be fighting on those pay-per-views. It's just going to be interesting to see who they sort of put on the undercards going forward. Other sort of notable names in the PPC stable that they could get. Maybe like a Leo Santa Cruz, Gary Russell. Sean Porter Thurman's been talked about. I'm assuming that's not going to be a pay-per-view fight. I'm assuming that's a Showtime or Fox fight. You're short, maybe a Danny Garcia in a really, bad tune-up, so you don't really have to pay his opponent that much and lower the cost. That's really all I see legitimately for those pay-per-views going forward, because you're starting to take away some names that would add depth to a card that may need it. But anyways, definitely call in 323 870-4051. Definitely want your opinion on this as well. But let's move on. Santiago, I see you in the queue. At any time, press 1 to jump in. We only have about a few topics left, and then I'm going to wrap up the show. Donnie Nietes versus Kazuto Ioka is been ordered by the WBO. The WBO is having their yearly convention, so a lot of sort of news, announcements, mandatories, orders, all that's happening. I love this fight for the vacant Super Flyweight title. I think it makes a lot of sense, and plus it'll probably be in a rather entertaining scrap. Along with this news, Jaime Munguia versus Dennis Hogan in line after WBO order. I'm not too happy with this matchup. Obviously, I think this is a rather easy tune-up for Jaime Munguia. Dennis Hogan's probably only claim to fame is, losing to, who did he lose to? Jack Calquet. And that doesn't really make me believe that you're anywhere close to Jaime Munguia's level, let's be completely honest. And the last topic of the day, and then I'm going to go over to Santiago and any other callers I want to call in, 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. or email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com, to get a free international call-in link. But Henry Cejudo, sorry, MMA news for all of our boxing fans, unfortunately, I apologize. Henry Cejudo has gone on to sort of tell everyone that Dana White has told him they want the TJ Dillashaw fight. They're thinking about eliminating the flyweight division, all the stuff we sort of knew about, let's be honest. What I really have to say about this? I mean, I'm gonna repeat all my talking points from when this news sort of came out and we sort of knew the writing was on the wall. This makes zero sense to me. It shows an extreme lack of imagination in terms of promoting from the UFC. It shows a very dogmatic sense of how to promote combat sports for the UFC. And the WME era has been littered with situations like this. Obviously, when Zuffa was owned by the Fertitta brothers, they had situations that made you question the integrity of the sport in a way, question, those issues. However, this era is different in the UFC. It just is. I'm going to try to get Anthony Walker on to next week to sort of talk about it a little bit more. Because I know he's a big, Demetrius Johnson fan, so am I. Is it just as simple as WME are Hollywood talent agents and they have zero concept of promoting prize fighting? Is it just that simple? Or is it more than that? I'm definitely want to sort of delve into it and dive a little more into the issue. But anyways, just sad. And again, the TJ Dillashaw Henry Cejudo fight is a fight that I'm not interested in. I'm gonna be honest. I'm significantly, exponentially more interested in the trilogy fight with DJ versus Henry Cejudo, and we're never gonna get that. Rather unfortunate. But anyways, we're gonna go to Santiago, out in LA. Santiago, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Just got back from delivering mail for the office at the post office and took the time to want to call in and give my opinions on today's topics. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Just an average Friday, end of the week. Get happy.
Yeah, we got a horribly filled day of boxing tomorrow, and one can be conflicted on how they feel about that because full day, but God, why do they all have to be at the same time, But going back to the point, obviously, I rolled my eyes when I saw that they were doing that Bob Arum wanted Golovkin Ramirez on pay-per-view. It's kind of like, there's a reason why these streaming services have been grabbing our attention in the first place. Like when we look at Canelo being on the zone, we think of the fact that we're going to get some good fights. Obviously, Danny Jacobs said he wanted the fights. Well, he's most likely going to the zone. And putting the whole fact that Wilder Fury is on pay-per-view, it's just kind of like, it's not a fight that I'm attracted to, not a fight that I would consider paying for. And it's not a fight that to me is just kind of like makes sense, Like, maybe he's showing his age like Harold Letterman is with his scoring. I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. Like the whole fact that the UFC wants to dissolve the flyweight division again had my attention more than that.
Well, Well, give your opinion on that then. Go into it. Rant, Santiago. It's your time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just kind of like, I remember you talking to me about this too a while back, and this was back when when Demetrius Johnson went on that one podcast you sent me the link to talk about how he had that one, how he was supposed to fight TJ, but he didn't know about it. He actually found out about his switch. It's kind of like, I gotta wonder, like, what are the decisions going into them that they have them deciding, we're gonna dissolve the decision, or we want this fight to be made, so on and so forth. Because a lot of this has been like, I don't really, like, I'm not a businessman, but I wouldn't really consider these like smart business moves. It's very questionable what they're trying to do, what they're doing, and like, I gotta wonder how this will affect an entire division where some of the fighters, this is the weight that they make comfortably, and moving up to the next division is probably going to be hazardous to their career or to their health in general.
sorry, Santiago. I was reading something. Unfortunately, a listener emailed me. I missed what you said. I deeply apologize. Hold on, Santiago. Before you speak, I'm gonna give myself gunshots. I deeply apologize, Santiago. Whatever you said, I agree with, probably.
Probably, if not something that you've probably already repeated in the past. But obviously, that's been my opinion. I'm sure everybody in the chat and that's listening is probably laughing at you right now for admitting to that much.
Hey, I would. Hey, what was I going to say? I literally was reading an email like really intently, and I just heard you talking, so I'm thinking, okay, Santiago's killing it, right? And then I hear you stop. I'm like, shit. He obviously asked me a question. I have no idea what he said. I can't bullshit my way through it. It's not like I heard half of it, and I can kind of get what you were saying. No, I literally was so engrossed with this email that I just missed everything you said. Again, shots at me.
Yeah. I'll leave it with this, though. Because this is actually a question that the guy at the post office asked me about, because he listens to your show too. What are your thoughts on the possibility of there being a George St. Pierre versus Khabib Nurmagomedov fight?
I love that question, and shout out to your post office person who listens to the show, man. Hold on, that's why I love Santiago. Because all of you should be doing that. You should be telling your fucking mailman, your doctor, your plumber, whatever, hey, go listen to MCR right now. Trust me, okay? Shout out to you, Santiago, for that. But to answer your question, obviously, I think it's a good chance. I think with the way Khabib is talking about how much he wants in terms of money, etc., I see it unlikely that he just goes straight to Tony Ferguson for some reason. I feel like he's going to position himself and leverage what he just did against Conor and the buy rate it did. Highest pay-per-view buy rate in UFC history. Third biggest all time. He's going to leverage that to a super fight with GSP, in my opinion, quite easily, if GSP wants it. That is really the hang-up. GSP has talked about it at times, but also has been a little bit hesitant to say that he will take it. I think it's in terms of percentage chance, I think it has a 40% chance of happening out of all the possibilities for Khabib. And then maybe Tony Ferguson after that, and then now obviously Mayweather as a third option after that, unfortunately. So I would love the GSP fight. You have GSP from 2007 to 2013 was the most dominant grappler, basically, in MMA at the time. And now we have Khabib is the new age version of that. I would love to see that fight.
Yeah, man, it sounds like it'd be an interesting matchup. Another, because I think GSP vacated the title too, so this wouldn't be like a going for a second belt, right?
Yes, GSP vacated his middleweight belt, or he stripped it, or they stripped him of it. I forget the exact specifics of it, but no, he does not have a belt.
Okay, so this would be like a good fight. I don't think obviously Khabib's title wouldn't be risking much. I think it's a good fight to make. I think it'd be an interesting fight to make between two of the top tier wrestlers of their times. And I really don't have much more to add for that. Obviously, if there's a Fight Live chat, let me know. It is going to be a hell of a streaming day for us. But other than that, take it easy, enjoy the day, and let's enjoy ourselves some good fights tomorrow.
Well, you enjoy your day, Santiago, and keep having those discussions with the postman about the show. I always appreciate that. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the day. I do apologize for making it sort of a quick show, unfortunately, but it wasn't a ton of news. And quick sort of PSA. Because I see people, concerned about somebody getting booted in the chat. I'm going to make it very clear. This show isn't about appeasing everyone. This show is about sort of appeasing my creative drive. I love talking about boxing. I love talking about MMA. And I like doing podcasts. I like doing shows. I find it creative. I find it cathartic in a way, and that's why I do it. And if I have some troll in the chat that I don't care about and he's not funny, fuck him, get out of here. But yeah, anyways, that's all I have to say about that. You can go watch some other shows. There's plenty of them on YouTube. The Ring Magazine just put out an article about the rise in boxing media in a way. I think it was vaguely about. I remember Santiago sent me a picture of it. I didn't read it. But anyways, I'll be back tomorrow. As always, shout out to Main Event Mark, Boxing Blunts, Johnny. Definitely always go check out Johnny's YouTube, SoundCloud, etc. AJXNI is how you spell it. Gary from Dallas, Fernando, Fern, Elias, and of course, Mr. Robbie Hearns. Hope Rob is having a great day over there in cloudy UK. But anyways, be back tomorrow. Have a great day. Peace.